Welcome to makeabigtraining.com. I'm Rich Sayer.
And I'm Stu Hayes.
And today we're talking about 8 great things you should do if you're unemployed. Stu.
8 great things. Fantastic.
Firstly, let's talk about protecting your attitude. What do you think about that, Stu?
It's critical. Protecting your attitude is the most important thing that you should do all the time. The environment that you put yourself in leads to the attitude, or it leads to the beliefs you have, which leads to the attitudes you have, and ultimately to the way you behave and the results you achieve.
Do you think then that your personal attitude is directly reflected by the people you hang out with?
Well, absolutely the case, because the people you are surrounding with yourself with, they have attitudes, they have beliefs, they say things, and all of this fuels your deeper beliefs.
So the old saying, like attracts like, so you've got to be careful who you hang out with.
Absolutely. Association is the key.
Perfect. Another great area, or one of the next most important things to think about, is to practice solving problems. Ultimately, people get paid for solving a problem. So if you don't have a problem to solve, go and find one. You can do this by volunteering, you can do this by doing charity work. There are so many problems out there that you can solve, and the mere act of practicing solving problems will make you get better at them. Stu, what do you think?
Well, not only that, but by getting out there and volunteering or taking up a contract role, for example, you're putting yourself in a position to connect with people and be seen adding value in solving problems. There's a history of people who have been unemployed who have gone out and actually engaged in the community in a role. Yeah.
Look, people get excited about a career in a certain industry and they quite often lack the experience or the street smart cred in that industry to get the opportunities that they want. I mean, it's reflective of a story we told earlier when we were 17, trying to tell the world we were marketing gurus and we really didn't know anything at the time. But, we were enthusiastic and that counted this much. But in terms of actually getting given the opportunities, nothing will beat experience. And if you don't have the experience that you need, go out there and get it. There are internships and volunteers, as we say, in every industry. You can nearly find a way in. And there's so many success stories about guys and girls that have made it to the top that started at the very bottom. What do you think?
Correct. Now, the other thing, of course, you absolutely should do is make sure you embark on a program of upgrading your own skills and capability.
What do you mean by that, Stu?
Well, it's something that I've embraced early on in my career by accident, but something that I continue to do between the interim CEO roles that I've always held.
Right.
So I'll go out and I'll do a course. I'll add a skill. In the early days, that was things like presentation skills or speed reading. And as I've become more senior and experienced, I would go and do a consulting advisory program or become a member of the Institute of Company Directors, where you'd go and do a 5-day program that when you come out, you've actually got something that's very significant and adds a lot of value to the people that you might work with in the future.
So upgrading your skills really leads straight into the next one, which is to train your brain. I mean, I hear what you're saying, and I too have added skills along the path. Sadly, we're born with certain talents, but skills tend to be a result of hard work. And in my experience, I found some of the people that are very talented actually don't develop the skills because they lean on their talents a little too much and they don't get the discipline to develop the skills. But expanding or training your brain is a great way to increase your employability, because obviously you come with the brain and your assets to the company are based on the problems that you can solve. Have you had any, stories that you could share in that regard, or any experiences that where you think the skills that you developed directly came across to making you more employable?
Look, I think it happens continuously, to be honest. Sometimes there's been periods of my life or between jobs as a CEO where I've embarked on an activity in a volunteer capacity.
Right.
And the skill set that I picked up was then, it's funny how the world works sometimes, exactly what the next interim CEO role was looking for.
Can you give us a specific example? What's something you volunteered at in your life?
Okay, so in this particular example, there was a need to have a website created and a whole social media campaign developed. Now, I'd gone out and done a course,
right,
and then been involved in volunteering to some local groups to help them build their website capabilities and social media capabilities.
What sort of local groups are you talking about? community-based
Well, for me,
groups?
a lot of the types of groups I volunteer in are surf lifesaving and things like that.
Got it.
So I like to get involved where my son enjoys to be outside. We get out there on the beach and we are working with kids. We're teaching them about beach safety, things like that.
Okay, all right. And the skills that you developed there directly came across into your career.
And in meditation groups that I'm involved with and that sort of thing, where that mix and match of different expertise and things you pick up by accident from recreational activities.
Okay.
And things you love doing, and suddenly here they are. There's an opportunity in a professional environment to apply them.
You were telling me a story earlier about a friend of a friend who actually volunteered for 18 months in a company to develop some 18 months. It's a long time. But in that period, she created a great career for herself in an industry. You want to tell the viewers about that?
So the person, it was actually 2 years, to be honest. So you want to do 2 years?
2 years?
2 years.
I was underselling it.
She volunteered for 2 years to work in the media for a Channel 9. Which is the largest TV channel in Australia at the time.
Absolutely.
And
Still
through that, ended up getting picked up and formed a career in Channel 9 as a newsreader, as a reporter initially. These days she's at Channel 7 and she's on TV every day.
Okay, fantastic. What a great story. So in terms of the things you should definitely do if you're unemployed, let's talk about contributing. And you've talked about volunteering. Contributing is more so, rather than physically going and volunteering, contributing is about your brain. So that could be contributing to social media, to groups, authoring things. Is that what we're saying?
Correct. And it really is about, the reason for this is twofold. Number one, it's encouraging you to get out there and interact with people by sharing information, by sharing your experience. But let's not forget that through sharing your experiences, you're actually becoming visible as a person who knows what they're talking about in your industry.
So by contributing, you're actually networking with people you may not even know yet, because opportunity doesn't necessarily come from those you know, but from people who know you or know of you from people you know.
That's right.
At the risk of sounding like Donald Rumsfeld there.
One of the great places to share, of course, is on LinkedIn, which is by far and away the king of the professional social media forums.
Absolutely.
Now, I know from past experience myself that by continuously contributing and sharing insight into groups that are relevant to the types of things that I specialize in, that people reach out and want to connect, right? They'll reach out and they'll ask you to come and help co-author things, co-authoring books, co-authoring blogs, co-authoring other groups, for example. But also through LinkedIn comes opportunities. In Asia at the moment, 60% of all employment is coming via LinkedIn.
That is insane.
Staggering.
That is an
Staggering,
insane
yeah.
statistic.
It's
Look,
staggering.
I heard recently a great quote from the founder of LinkedIn, which was differentiate or die, which ties perfectly into our next issue, which is personal brand. Taking charge of you, Inc., or you, Proprietary Limited. Your person is a brand, and you're in the marketplace and you're selling your product, which is your skills and talents, to a potential employee. You know a little bit more about this than I do, Stu. What are your thoughts on personal brand?
Look, I think this is a wonderful area, and this is one of the things that social media is outstanding at helping us to do. If you look at all elements of life these days, they're starting to be personalised. Celebrity chefs didn't exist 20 years ago.
It was a beautiful time.
Celebrity fashion designers didn't exist 20 years ago.
It was a beautiful time.
But they're just two ways. They're a bit off the wall. Yeah.
Yeah.
But in terms of your brand and what you stand for, if you can authentically communicate yourself by being yourself, by sharing and contributing in different media channels, and by being consistent to your brand, who you stand for.
Yep.
Having core elements of yourself visible to the world and publicly out there in the right way, it's incredibly powerful.
I guess one way of looking at it is if you're unemployed, you want a great job. You want the job that's going to make you happy. You just don't want any job, although sometimes any job is a good start. If you can clearly articulate your personal brand, then ultimately what we're trying to do is get brand alignment between a company and what it stands for and believes and what you believe, so that you're working for and with a company that is doing something that you believe in. And
Correct.
yeah, and the
And
personal brand's
you
part of
found
that.
that, I recall, back in the APRA days, early in your career, is that right?
Absolutely, yeah. In my mid-20s, I got a job at APRA, which is the Australasian Performing Rights Association. And at the time, you know, I'd come out of marketing. I was very, very excited to be working in the music industry because I wanted to be in the music industry. And I got involved in that company in a marketing context, but that didn't matter. I was telling everyone, I'm in the music industry. But what I actually found, I did believe in what the company stood for, very much so. And I did believe in the role in which it played in society. And I landed the job in literally a minute. I walked into the job interview and I said, I understand what you do. I understand why you do it. I understand the role that you are advertising, and I have the skills to deliver on that role, and I would like the job. And that attitude came across, and literally I got a call back within a couple of minutes after the interview, and I'd got the job. Sadly, for the people who were still in the waiting room to be interviewed, the lady who employed me literally said, don't tell anyone yet, we still have to go through the interviewing process.
Yeah, and it is often the case that happens. You know, I know as a CEO recruiting people that you will often identify someone, you think, gee, they really are fantastic. But you do want to go through. Normally I wouldn't have made the offer. I'd have still have wanted to have the interviews just because you never know who else is out there. Yeah.
Stu, the eighth and an incredibly important point to make before we finish up is to ask for help. And it's asking help in your own network, to ask for help even when you are going for the jobs. You can literally say, what is it that is really going to, you know, be attractive to you? You know, the old saying, ask and you shall receive, is very true, and particularly when looking for a job. What's been your experience on the other side, Stu, when you're employing people? How important is them asking to you?
Look, there's two parts to that answer that I'd like to talk about. The first one is actually that in asking, they are expressing some confidence. You know, they're actually I see them as being someone who is comfortable enough to ask, which is positive.
Absolutely.
Yeah? But I think the other part that's very important is actually asking, being big enough to ask other people in an authentic way for help in the first place. And I know that as an interim CEO, as I mentioned earlier, and I'm always, you know, I was always having a break from a role whilst a new one was being searched for, I needed to not sugarcoat the truth. I needed to find a job. I've got a family, I've got to put food on the table, so I needed to find the job. If I was sitting around saying everything was okay, then the opportunities didn't arise. But when I went back out into my industry, into my network, I met with people and I'd say, you know what, I finished the last role, it was a great success, I'm looking for something else right now. It was on those occasions that roles started to emerge because people knew exactly what to do. I needed help now, not maybe in 3 months.
Look, in closing, I just want to talk about an acquaintance of mine, a friend, who took on board a lot of these points, but very much focused on the upgrading of skills, and the other things flowed. From having the right attitude about himself, he said, I need to develop more skills to create the opportunities. He went about actually upskilling in the area of website design, of which he had no background. And today, Stu, I can tell you he has a business that turns over $3 million a year, is incredibly successful bloke. And that has happened over a period of less than a decade. He has gone from unemployed to multi-millionaire by basically following these 8 steps.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Yeah.
We'd like to thank you for staying with us. Of course, get out there and make it big. Let us know your comments, your thoughts. We'd love to know if you got any other steps to add to this list. We'll add them for you. We'd love to let our viewers know. Please do subscribe and get some free tips on life, career and business. Remember, makeitbig.com. Thanks.
Thank you.